Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. Wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. والذين جاهدوا فينا لنهدينهم سبلنا سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Welcome back to day 23, the viral spirituality bites. Alhamdulillah, Ramadan is leaving and is departing and is slipping out of our hands very quickly. It's essentially the last week of Ramadan. Tonight will be the 24th night, and this is really time for action. This is time for us to proverbially roll up our sleeves and put our heads down and try to make the most of the remaining days. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us. Hopefully we've seen some positive change in our spirituality, in our acts of worship, in our daily interactions with people, in our taqwa, in our recitation of Quran, in our khushu and khudu, in our desire to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout the last 3 or so weeks of Ramadan. Inshallah, the last week will be the time to capitalize on it and to make sure that we do the best we can by the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I wanted to mention 2 notes before we started today. Number 1 is, I hope all of us have ordered or placed our orders for gifts for Eid. For our children, number 1, obviously. Number 2, for ourselves. Say, what do you mean? Order a gift for myself? With love from me, to me? What I mean is that I hope that we, all of us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us all the tawfiq to give some sadaqah this Ramadan. Donate to your favorite institution, your favorite student of learning, your favorite Islamic cause, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, while these rewards are multiplied. This will essentially be a gift from you to you that you will receive on the Day of Judgment. The Prophet ﷺ, he taught us to kind of reverse the paradigm when we think about these things. Number 1, he swore by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that when a person gives sadaqah, it does not decrease their wealth. So number 1, that's something to bear in mind. During these days when people are feeling tight-fisted and they want to hold on to all their wealth even more than before due to COVID and economic uncertainties, people losing their jobs, etc. These are the days in which it's even more rewarding to give sadaqah, because it shows your trust and your sacrifice for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is shakur, he appreciates it much more than anyone else could. Number 2 is that the Prophet ﷺ, once a goat was slaughtered and sent to the house of the Prophet ﷺ, and the blessed wives of the Prophet ﷺ started distributing parts of that goat and to the people, because of course they thought of others before they thought about themselves. And eventually the Prophet ﷺ came and he asked them what's left of the goat. So they told him sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the foreleg of the goat was the only thing that was remaining. So he said no. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, that the leg is gone and the rest of it is remaining. The leg is gone, the part that you think you have in your hand, that part is actually gone. And the rest of it, the one that you have given out in sadaqah and as gifts to people, that is the part that is remaining. How so? You read the Quran we come to an ayah, مَا عِنْدَكُمْ يَنْفَدْ وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ, that whatever is with you will go away, it will perish, it will disappear eventually. But what is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remain. In other words, the sadaqah that you give for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that has attained an eternal life and will be a source of eternal reward for you on the Day of Judgment. In other words, it's going to remain. Whereas whatever you use for yourself and you use up, and for in this case, let's say we eat something, we don't give it out to people, we eat it ourselves, that will go through our body, eventually it will go away. So the second point was that if you haven't ordered gifts for yourself, if you have ordered gifts for yourselves, also think about the fact that there are some people that are not as fortunate as us that also would like to have gifts and nice new clothes, etc. on Eid. So it behooves us, and I'm talking to myself first and foremost, to give our sadaqatul fitr as early as possible. Because if you imagine the people that need to use this money and the masajid that need to distribute this money, it's very difficult to get it to the people that need it on the day of Eid itself if we try to give it on the day of Eid. But rather, if we give it to them beforehand, then they have a higher chance of getting it to those people and they can use it for fulfilling their needs and buying things, etc. So even though the masajid are closed, there are avenues online to do it. For example, Masjid Umar has a method for you to do it online, and it behooves us to actually go ahead and make use of it. And also the masajid and all the other religious institutions where you used to go and used to donate your money in the box, sadaqah box, etc., they have seen a large decrease in the amount of sadaqah and donations that they are receiving as a result of people obviously not frequenting the masajid. So we should do our best to support them. They are, of course, for our own benefit. And when we give sadaqah, it benefits nobody except us. So moving on. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Day 23, the inner dimensions of fasting. So yesterday we covered the 3 levels of fasting that Imam Ghazali mentioned in Ihya Ulumuddin. Number 1 was the fasting of the regular people, which was restraining the body and private parts from fulfilling their desire. We mentioned the linguistic definition of Sawm was to restrain oneself from something, even if it's for a short time. And the proof that we provided for this was the ayah of the Quran where Maryam alayhi salam is told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fast from speaking to anyone, from talking to anyone, when they would ask her questions about baby Isa alayhi salam. Inni nadartu lirrahmani sawma falan ukallima al-yawma insiya, that I have pledged, I have vowed a fast for Ar-Rahman, so I shall not speak to anyone today. And we also mentioned that fasting is kind of in the DNA of spirituality. The way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions it in the Quran is that this is something that the previous people also used to do for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it even exists till today in Christianity and Judaism, etc., in whatever form it is that they have kept it today. And this is also a way to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not angry with us when He's prescribing fasting for us, but rather it's something that is useful, and the people that past did it, and we will also do it, inshallah, seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so then we mentioned number 2, we kind of started on this, fasting of the special people, restraining the stomach, private parts, tongue, hands, feet, hearing, vision, and the entire limbs from sins. And this is what I term the real lockdown, right? And I have a picture over there. It seems kind of painful, but I assure you that no humans were harmed in the creation of this picture. It's fancy photoshopping that someone has done. But it should really at least strike home, right? That this is essentially what I ought to be doing. I ought to be buckling down and monitoring what goes in and out of these 5 senses of mine, right? The tongue shouldn't speak anything that it shouldn't be saying, even more so when I'm not fasting, right? Because all the things that we are not supposed to do, which is to stay away from sins, this was there even before fasting, right? It's the same restriction, but now it's even more so while you're fasting. Same thing with your hands, same thing with your feet, hearing, vision, and all the other limbs. And I wanted to kind of delve into some of the common pitfalls that people fall into while fasting, starting off over here. Some admonitions that have come in the hadith for leading the same life while fasting as you led prior to fasting. So the same routine, the same way you interacted with the people, the same things that you used to do before fasting started, if you continue that same sinful life during the days of fasting, look at what the Prophet ﷺ says. رب صائم ليس له من صيامه إلا الجوع ورب صائم ليس له من قيامه إلا السهر. How many people, how many fasting people, right, are there that get nothing from their fast except hunger? And how many fasting people are there who pray, meaning they stand up at night, they pray their tarawih, their tahajjud, but they get nothing from their prayer except for sleeplessness. They lose a bit of sleep over it, right? They woke up and they made wudu, etc. In other words, there's no reward for these kind of deeds. The reward of it gets nullified by all the evil that was done during the fast. Allahu Akbar. May Allah forgive all of us. Look at the next hadith. من لم يدع قول الزور والعمل به فليس لله حاجة في أن يدع طعامه وشرابه. Whoever does not give up forged speech, false lies, false oaths, etc., and evil actions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in need of his leaving his food and drink. Obviously, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in need of anything, right? He's as-samad, he's al-ghani. But what this means is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't care about his fasting. He doesn't want his fasting. He will not accept his fasting. His fasting will not be accepted. He'll go through the efforts, he'll go through the motions, but there'll be nothing for him in terms of the reward of it because it will not be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive all of us. We all realize that, Allahu Akbar, we have not been fasting the way we ought to be fasting. Something to really think about and something to make istighfar for. It's not too late. Say, Ya Allah, I realize that what I should have been doing, I have not been doing. And Ya Allah, just by virtue of this realization coming to me, Ya Allah, I ask that you forgive me. Ya Allah, I ask that you give us all the tawfiq to fast the way we ought to fast. Ya Allah, we realize that these paltry, flawed deeds that we're presenting to you are not worthy of being presented. Ya Allah, we beg of your mercy and we ask that you accept these small, paltry, faulty deeds from us the way that you have been accepting our deeds and the way that we hope that you accept our deeds. And Ya Allah, we realize that in the deen, there is something called relative grading, right? Which is the fact that people are graded based on their circumstances. For example, let's say in the first 100 years of Islam, there was much less fitna. There were much fewer avenues of sin. There was general goodness around, right? It was khairul qurun, etc. The best of the generations were around. It was easy to keep good company. It was easy to be good. So therefore, if you cannot really compare the effort that a person has to put in nowadays to the effort that a person had to put in back then in terms of staying away from sins. Right? So therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward people commensurate to their efforts. And in this there is a great hope for us, right? Ya Allah, we are basically spiritually handicapped people. We are spiritually handicapped people. And you know, when there are people that have some kind of special need or handicap, People make special doors for them. People make special stairs for them. People make special avenues for them and parking spots, etc., for them to get to where they need to get, right? And to essentially not feel left out as well. And so, Ya Allah, we ask that you accept our handicap, our spiritual handicap that we present to you. Ya Allah, we were born in a difficult time. We are spiritually handicapped as well. Ya Allah, we have spiritually handicapped ourselves as well. We are obviously not free of any blame in this regard. We cannot always just blame the circumstance and think that we're done. But Ya Allah, we realize that we have created bad circumstances for ourselves and the people around us through our bad behavior. We ask that you take it easy on us on the grading of our deeds. Ya Allah, we cannot be held to the same measure as the Sahaba or the Tabi'een or the Taba Tabi'een. We ask that you grade us according to the time and era that we live in. This is our source of hope that, Ya Allah, on the Day of Judgment, we will actually have some sort of reward for our deeds. Allah is Kareem. Allah is Rahim. So I wanted to talk about, so one of the things over there was that saving the tongue from sins. And what are some of the common sins of the tongue? Number one is passing on news, right, that you do not even know, you have not verified to be true or not. And this happens a lot on social media, the fake news, so to speak, right? We just get some forward and we don't even think about it twice. We just forward it to people because it seemed good. We didn't care about verifying whether it was true or not. Sometimes it's even to do with Islam itself. The people pass on these strange kind of rewards for doing deeds, right? Like if you say this one thing and do this kind of sajda after this salah, then you will get like some huge crazy reward. And it's like, it's completely fabricated, but you didn't bother checking, so you'd never know, and you just forward it to people, and you've got hordes of people now doing this thing and passing it on to other people. So in the Quran it says, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. O you who believe, if a sinful person comes to you, a fasiq person, brings you a report, some kind of news, some kind of information, verify its correctness. Don't just pass it on, right? And in another hadith it comes that it's enough for a person to be classified as a liar if he just passes on everything that he hears, right? That he passes on everything that he hears. I heard this from here, okay, I just pass it on to someone. I just tell them about it without even filtering and seeing whether or not that thing was true. And this is how falsehood spreads in the world, right? This is how falsehood gains a foothold in the world. By the time people realize that it was wrong, it's too late, right? Why? What happens? Lest you should harm a people out of ignorance and then become remorseful on what you did. And this is essentially what propaganda is, right? Propaganda is essentially truth cloaked in falsehood being passed around and people propagating it without even knowing it. And then eventually it ends up harming people. It's not just words. People actually commit hate crimes and so on and so forth. The next one that I wanted to talk about was backbiting. In the ayah below, it mentions in part of it, وَلَا يَغْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا, that and do not backbite one another. أَيُحِبُّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَنْ يَأْكُلَ لَحْمَ أَخِيهِ مَيْتًا فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ تَوَّابٌ رَحِيمٌ. Does one of you like that he eats the flesh of his dead brother? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likens it to eating the flesh of your dead brother. You would abhor it, you would hate it, and fear Allah. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ. Surely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most relenting, most merciful. Inshallah, we will continue this from here tomorrow, inshallah. May Allah ta'ala give us all the tawfiq to fast correctly, fast properly, keep all our sins, all our organs and limbs and senses away from any sort of sin, and at least reach level 2 of fasting this Ramadan. Please make sure you keep this needy servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your du'as and the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله